Everything I do is purpose-built. Everything I do in my morning routine is so I can control my optimal end state and so I can have bandwidth for other people. I hate multitasking. You can't do anything at 100%. You can't. Like, let me just shut this thing down. Let me just solve this issue. Tell it to me. And once I do that, I swear to God, it's like a superpower.
Welcome back to the Mulligan Brothers podcast. And today we have a clip from our interview with DJ Shipley. So many of you know him from SEAL Team 6 and the amazing work that he's done around the world, sharing his message and his wisdom and some of those stories. And here's another exclusive video from DJ Shipley. Today's episode, as always, is sponsored by Huel. I'll talk about these a little bit more later on in the video, but this is the Huel Black Edition that I have been using for the past 3 months now. I think that Huel's had Black Edition ready to drinks out, and it's an absolute game changer. So find out more with a link down below. Let's dive into the video. The concept that you spoke about today quite a few times was when you were beginning in all of this, and most successful or obsessively successful people who are trying to be great have switches. And that's it. You know, they're wearing the, I'm Kobe Bryant, that's it. Everything is obsession with basketball and there's nothing else. No family. I'm not a husband, a father, a friend. I'm just the best basketball player on planet Earth. And you had this exact same thing, this switch that you would flick on, and it usually remained on even throughout your personal life and everything. And that now you see that completely differently, and you have a different concept now.
Yeah, dials and switches. You know, when you're 19 years old, fresh out of high school, joining a new whatever, it's really easy just to go, I'll be a Navy SEAL. It's the only thing that matters. Nothing else matters. How good I can shoot, move, communicate, parachute, dive, whatever it is. It's a lot of things you really got to be good at. And it's a lot easier if I don't have any distractions. So let me just focus on this one thing. And where a lot of guys make the mistake is they try to introduce a family into that foundational phase. Like, well, instead of just focusing my first 4, 5, 6, 10 years on developing my kata, my style, my foundation, I'm going to try to manage a bunch of things at one time. I'll try to get a girlfriend. I'll get a puppy. I'll buy a house. I'll do this. I'll take it windsurfing. No. Nope. That's why, piss a lot of people off. That's why I like the East Coast more than the West Coast. There's not any, you've been here. There's nothing to do here. The only thing there is to do is focus on work. You got the sunny California, beautiful beaches, surf, beautiful women. There's plenty of places to go. You can rock climb. You can be in Red Rocks. You can go out to wherever. You can do whatever you want to in California. Lots of distractions. Not a lot of distractions here. There's nothing to do. You can't be more than an hour away. You're not going rock climbing here. You can go to the rock gym, go to indoor rock gym, you go to the actual gym, you can go to the shooting range, you can go swim. I guess you can surf on these waves, but like, there's not a lot of things to do, so you can just focus on that one thing. And as you set that foundation, I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary to limit your options and narrow your focus. I don't want any external factors pulling bandwidth for me. I just want to focus on this one thing right now. That's the only thing I truly care about because it matters. So I'm going to hammer down on this one thing right now. And when I'm older, and hindsight being 20/20, if someone could have given me a gift at 17, it would have been the concept, maybe not the application, but the concept of a dial and not just a switch. Later on in your life, I'm going to reintroduce this to you and you'll remember back. You won't know how to apply it, but I'll show you then. Just the concept would have helped me. Like, this is not what you're going to do for 20 years. It's not. And if you are, you're going to do this whole thing alone. And that's a very common thing to see guys 17, 18 years in their career, single. Like, just a long-term girlfriend, they've been dating for 10 years, not engaged, not married, no kids. Then they retire and they try to do everything real fast. That's pretty common. Hindsight being 20/20, if we could just develop this into, the switch is great for establishing the baseline, but if I want to introduce a wife into the situation and then kids in the situation, a dial serves me much better. A panel of dials offer me even more. And if we just say that being a pro is doing everything you do at a super high level, then I would say that being a husband deserves a professional approach. So what would a pro do? If your only job was to be a husband, what would you do? I'd do it 100%. I'd wake up and I'd cater to her every single need. I'd provide funding, protection, livelihood, home, electricity. I provide all the things I'd have to. Security blanket, that's my job. And I'd crank that thing all the way over to a 10 and I'd live there. And then when it's time for me to go golfing, I'd power down my husband and I'd power up the golf. Now when we have kids, it's the exact same thing. Now there's just 2 dials. Now I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner, I'm a whatever. That takes full bandwidth. But if I go from Navy SEAL, entrepreneur, whatever, and I take that straight home, they don't need that. That's not what she needs here. She's gonna be barking orders at her. My kids don't need that. So what do? I've got to be able to dial it up and dial it down. But in reality, that's a very hard thing to do in close proximity. So the people that work from home, that's a hard one. So what I tell guys, I use my transition times. So you've been to the work, you've seen the drive here. It takes me exactly 10 minutes to do it. It's basically 2 songs by Chris Stapleton. I jump in that car, I power everything down, I check my social media one time. I usually roll that at 5 o'clock. I'll check everything on social media so I won't have to do it at home. Doesn't always happen. And then as soon as I get in that car, when I put it in drive, I change the radio station. I put on something super easy, something nice and calm, and I shut everything else out. And I play in role reversal of what's going to happen when I hit that garage door. Who's going to be the first auto that's going to run down? Who's going to grab me? What are they going to say? What are they wearing? And I start to try to predict the future. Where are they at? Where's Patsy with homework? Like how far they've gotten along? What am I making for dinner? And just all the interactions I'm about to have, these little micro wins that I could potentially have and all these potential micro fails. If I walk in this house with CEO hat on or whatever hat on, I'm going to fail over and over and over again. And the 25 things I did right from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., I can undo right now. It's not what a pro would do. If my only job was to be a husband and a father right now, what would you do? I'd dial all those things down. I'd grab both those dials and I'd go, I'd hover right at a 7 or an 8. Come to the door, hugs and kisses. Hey, great to see everybody. I want to do a tea party. Whap, crank it over to a 10. We're painting fingernails. We got pig ties. We got the whole thing. Brontosaurus crawling around on all 4s. That's a 10. She needs me to come down from homework and we need to have an adult conversation. I'll dial down dad to a 3. I'll take husband from a 7 and roll it to a 10. Undivided attention. Send it. What do you got? Now I'm playing therapist back and forth. Like, okay, we've eaten dinner now. I'm still at a 7 or an 8, still at a 3 or a 4. Let's go on a 20-minute walk, you and me. Cool. I power everything down. I'm going to be selfish for these next 10 minutes. We won't say anything usually. The first lap, we won't say anything. We just walk. We just sink in energy. I'm just trying to flush out whatever I'm working through right now. Now it's your turn. Crank it back up to a 10. Give it to me. Whatever she's got going on, whatever she's processing, whatever trauma, now it's your undivided attention. I'm not texting on my phone. I'm not trying to multitask. I hate multitasking. You can't do anything at 100%. You can't. Like, let me just shut this thing down. Let me just solve this issue. Tell it to me. Cool, we come back in here. I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about social media. I'm not thinking about trips and ammo and shooting or training. I'm not thinking about any of that because now I have the concept of the dial. And I can power down the GBRS dial all the way to 0. As soon as I wake up 5:30 in the morning, wham, sit it right at a 4. Brush my teeth with purpose, my whole morning routine. I get in the truck, the music's a little different. Now it's Ludovico because I'm going in for a cold plunge. I'm trying to get my mind right. I'm trying to scrub out all the hate and toxicity, whatever I have going on inside me. My whole morning is purpose built. They don't know I'm here. They don't even know I'm gone. So my husband, my father dial is cranked to 0. I'm not thinking about them at all. And I know that sounds fucked up, but it's not. It's because the next 45 minutes are just for me. I've given you everything else. My morning routine is not about them. It's not about Instagram. It's not about subscriptions. That morning routine is just for me. That fitness is not for you. It's not for them. It's for me. And I do it because it puts me on a better trajectory in my life. That's why I do it, not for anybody else. So once I go in there, I crank it all the way up. When I'm setting up for a deadlift or a big lift, whatever it's going to be, I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm not thinking about the meeting I have at 10. I'm not thinking about the range block we have that afternoon. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to have for lunch. Nothing. I'm focused on that one particular thing, and I have a good lift or I have a bad lift. When I'm done, I reset and do the same thing again. 20-minute walk. Hover back. We had to go into a meeting. I've been hovering at a 4 or 5 this whole time, just allowing my whole self to process. Now I've got to go into a meeting. One, crank it over to 10. Give you my undivided attention. As soon as I walk in a meeting, back to a 4. 20-minute walk. Okay, 20-minute walk, 20-minute walk. Anything happens in between, I'll dial it down. Like, I'm not on my email. I'm not on my cell phone. I'm not trying to two-hand type. I'm not trying to listen to your phone call and give you my undivided attention. Like 60-40, 50-50, I'm not doing that. I shut off my email, I swivel around my chair and I look at you. Send it. There's nothing else that should matter more right now. Like, I hate this multitasking concept. oh, I can have 4 browsers open. I can have a conversation with you and I'm on a Zoom call. No, you can't. No, you can't. And if you just stop lying to yourself and use some dials and really take some practice and use those buffers in between those transitional moments to set the stage, give yourself every opportunity, exhaust every resource. Have I really dialed it all the way down? Well, no, not really, because I left work. I was hateful. I listened to hateful ass music the entire way on a 3-way call, just screaming at these 2 dudes. I pulled my driveway and I walked right in on speakerphone. You didn't power down shit. You didn't power down a single thing. I mean, that's the old lady. If I sit in that driveway, I'll put that thing in park and the garage door will open. The kid's coming out, I'll re-shut it. Give me 5 minutes. They'll see in the window, like, come in. 5 minutes. I'll sit there. I'll listen to Ludovico and I'll zen out. I'm like, do not show them how stressed you are right now. Do not show them. They do not understand. They don't know what work stress is. They don't know what I'm dealing with. And at a certain point, she doesn't either. She doesn't need that. She doesn't need me coming in talking about whatever issues we're dealing with. None of it matters. What she needs is 100% focus on her and these kids right now. The only way that I figured out how to do it is to really take a conscious effort on dials and switches. Everything I do is purpose built. Everything I do in my morning routine is so I can control my optimal end state and so I can have bandwidth for other people. And once I do that, I swear to God, it's like a superpower. Like I can really dial this thing up and I can really dial it back and I can do nothing and I can just recharge my batteries. And a lot of this, that's the company you keep. People are chargers, people are drainers. You met Vernon today. Vernon's a charger. He walks in, you automatically feel better. I can plug into him and I leave every conversation. I feel better. Some people walk into a room and it's like, God, when's this dude going to leave? You almost have to do a 1-for-1 trade-off. But now you know that, now you recognize it. That's just a heightened state of awareness. That's not some secret Navy SEAL shit. That's just normal people reading off the room. It's like when you know that Pam is terrible and every time she walks around you feel worse, avoid her. Just avoid her. And it's not hiding your head in the sand, it's purpose built. Like I'm avoiding conflict because I know it doesn't serve me later. If I can't control that outcome and I don't have to associate with her, I'm not going to. But I have to have the bandwidth.
I hope you're enjoying the highlights so far. Today's video was sponsored by Huel as always. This is the Huel Black Edition. I've been using this for the past few months now. Huel Black Edition has just been released in the US and it is amazing. It has 35 grams of protein. It's ready to drink. It's got 26 vitamins and minerals and slow release carbs, meaning that you can fuel your performance or your day-to-day life with this. Find out more with the link in the description. When would you recommend switching for yourself? You know, if you could, with hindsight, with that 2020 vision, at what point did you need to go to dials?
I think introduce the concept of dials and switches as early as possible. If you think they can retain the information, they can understand the concept, I would say I do not recommend anybody who is setting their foundation and trying to achieve a high level to try to focus on dials and switches. I wouldn't. I gave that to the guys at FSU about dials and switches, about in and out of class, but I did with the context of you're representing the team and everywhere you go. Your performance in class is a direct representative of this team, right? Like it all matters. And if you don't do those dials and switches, if you're only thinking about football every day, you can't focus on class. You have to be able to focus on class. So in that concept, it is dials and switches, but those are the only 2 dials you should have. It shouldn't be your toxic girlfriend or this drama you have here, this social media bullshit. You need to take the 2 things that only matter and focus on those dials. But for the majority of people, while you're single, while you don't have any distractions, really focus. Focus on setting your baseline, focus on the obsession, and you'll know when the time is right. When you introduce a girlfriend, a fiance, a wife, and she starts drawing bandwidth from you, and it starts to become a friction point where, we'll say before it gets to the point where I need for you to quit this for me, you need to really sit down and think about dials and switches. Like, okay, I've established my baseline. I'm one of the best dudes in the world. Like, I'm hitting my mark every single time. But I'm not playing basketball 24 hours out of the day. I really just need to focus on this game during training, during my individual training, and during my mindset development at night. But the other 14 hours out of the day, I can shut it all off and really preserve some of that bandwidth and give it to you. Because if not, you just run the red the entire time, and it's so hard to stay hyper vigilant. And that's not tactically, that's just a thing. Kobe Bryant, hypervigilant. Michael Jordan, hypervigilant. People that do anything at a super high level, you're living inside there. You look at neurosurgeons, like they're living that world all day long, and it's very hard to power down. It's very hard to unflick that switch because it took you so long to get there. It's like you don't know how to shut it off. You've never done it before. Well, we have to put in a couple little baselines and benchmarks in our day that allow us the opportunity to even think about dialing it down. Like, okay, I'm on a beach, it's vacation, we're in the Bahamas, there's nothing going to happen to me right now. What would happen if I left my phone in the hotel room and I didn't have it for the next 8 hours? Can I set everything on my phone? Can I make sure all my social media is tight and I can just shelf it? And I'll just be a dad with you idiots for the next 8 hours, and I'll just immerse myself and have fun. It's a very hard thing to do if you never practice it, because you're sitting there the entire time, you're just on your phone, it vibrates, and you feel like you have to answer, you have to repeat over and over and over. You don't. Power it off. But if you don't have it purpose-built, like by design, it's a very hard thing to get away from. It's like why you have the opportunity, why you have the clarity to do so, start to introduce those concepts. Like, how can I dial this down? How can I dial this up? And doing it at the same time is a very hard thing to do. That's why I use the drive home. That's 10 minutes of nothing to do. I don't usually take phone calls back home. People call me when I leave the office. You got 10 minutes to talk? Actually, I just walked into a meeting. I didn't walk into a meeting. I need these 10 minutes because I'm about to go home and deal with like life, man. Like I'm trying to give them 100% of me, and it's hard to do if I'm on the phone with you up until I walk to the driveway. And people don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. So if I've blown people off, that's what it is. Like I'm trying to make time for the people that I sacrificed during my whole career because they deserve it. It's really what it is. At the end of the day, be a pro. If you be a pro in everything you do, it gives you the accountability, it gives you the ownership, and it gives you an opportunity to be the person that people are trying to emulate, people are trying to be like.
What was your first experience at war like?
You'd hear all this stuff on the news about WMDs and oil and all of this, and none of that mattered. Your political views don't matter, your religion doesn't matter, your race, color, creed doesn't matter. These dudes are trying to kill your ass all f***ing day. And that reality is really what I needed. The only thing that's going to protect me is have I exhausted all my resources. Are we all as trained as we can be? Yeah. Am I physically fit? Yeah. Am I mentally in tune with everything around me? Yes. Can't do anything more than that. Let's go.